Syndicated presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
What is up? So glad you could join us. Anti-Ghost, of course, bringing us in. If you have not checked them out yet, what are you waiting for? Go check them out. Some great music. Of course, he is Matt Shepard. I am Sean Baligian. Poor Shep. All right, so we sign into the computer, right? We sign, this is basically how it happens. We sign in the computer. We say, we're going to do a show at like 10 a.m. Okay, great. Fantastic. Shep signs in, and Blake and I are in the middle of a conversation about the glories of Costco. And so here's the crazy thing. Shep, instead of going, what are you guys talking about? Shep immediately jumps into the conversation and said something along the lines. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said, when I walk into a sporting goods store, I always got to get something. When I walk into a suit store, I'm always tempted to buy. When I walk into Costco, I always end up buying 100 times more than I wanted to. That is
absolutely
underrated spot, Shep. Love it.
It's one of those stores my wife does not want me to go with her to. Well, let's be honest. She doesn't really want me to go with her anyway, but especially Costco, because she says, I end up, when you're walking down the aisle, sometimes you have a specific list that you've got to get certain things, right? I'm sure Kristen feels the same way. You're walking down, okay, this is where the fruit is. Here's the fish. There's the meat. There's the rotisserie chicken, right? Back there is all the water and the things that you need to get a great deal. I always end up going like this, like snaking my way through. It's like Dylan Larkin through the neutral zone, just kind of weaving my way. And she'll say to me all the time, where are you going? No, you don't want to go over there. Please, I've got to check out what kind of pants or shorts or sweatshirts they may have just for a goof, especially like when you first walk in. Wow, great deals on these socks. I don't need socks. What am I looking at them for? Because they're great deals, right?
I think there's a magnet with me, is like where I see the meat department that it's like the gravitational pull, and I find myself just kind of heading that way. And I'm going to tell you what, listen, I don't want to call myself a snob, but I like to go to the butcher. Okay, I do. Yeah. The butcher has Costco's meat's pretty damn good too.
Really good.
It is really, really good. And, especially for my smoker, Shep, I go and they have like the industrial size bags of pellets and everything for my smoker. Just a great spot.
Listen, it's okay to be a snob, Sean. I mean, it is. I don't use the word snob. You are a barbecue connoisseur. So okay, seriously. I'm not saying that because you're here. I mean, the pictures you tweet out, oh my God. I mean, it makes you want to quickly run to your house and jump in your backyard, either on that little beautiful fenced in porch or just downstairs where the smoker is, and want to spend some time. So Costco's got really good food in general, great deals overall. Their prices have gone up with their steaks. And look, it's inflation. A lot of people understand it. But their prices have gone up quite a bit. I'm hoping it changes soon. How's that?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But I'll tell you, it's good meat. Like, I'm serious. I know so many fellow snobs out there. Oh, I only go to the butcher. But let me tell you something. It's good meat.
Do you know your butcher's name?
No, I don't.
Okay, then you're not. Then I don't think you're a snob.
No, I talk to all the dudes. Like we know each other. Like we talk, but I don't know any of their names. They'll tell me like ahead of time. They're like, dude, you got it. Okay, coming in a couple days, you got to try this and stuff like that. But I go in there once a week. It's things that old dudes do.
Do you do the shopping? Do you do the grocery shopping in your house?
Yeah, I really do. Yep.
Oh,
I love Shep. Honestly, that is I kid you not. That is my zen. I don't know why. That is my. There is a, we're out here in Northville, and I'm not going to say his name just in case he doesn't want me, but a former Lion used to frequent the same grocery store that I go to. And it was funny because like Shep, if I see these guys, you say hello, but like, come on, you're on your private time. I'm not going to start a conversation with you, all that stuff. And we would see each other weeks in a row on Monday, shopping day. And like I stopped one day and I said, I almost said his name, but I said, you doing the same thing I am? He goes, I just love going to the grocery store. I said, cool, that makes two of us. You know, it just I don't know. For me, it's like, ooh, I'm gonna get this and I'm gonna get that. And you know, it's dangerous at times,
Well,
especially when I get
they always say it's more dangerous when you go when you're hungry. Do you avoid being hungry when you go?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that I think that's smart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably the smart way to go.
I usually plan like so we're going. I think I told you we're going to visit Jack this week, and we're actually going to see the Tigers in Anaheim. I'm looking forward to it. You know, another park to cross off the list, so to speak. But as soon as we're done today, I have to run to the store because we're having a few people over on the 4th. Nothing huge, you know, where I have to go buy mass quantities and a trip to Costco. But I have to go get a few things and stuff like that. And the planning ahead stuff is that's okay, because if I plan ahead, I know in my mind, all right, well, I got to do a couple racks of ribs, I'm gonna get some burgers, I'm gonna get some dogs, all right, we'll be good. So when I plan ahead, I'm okay. But to your point, it's the spontaneous. Oh wow, well, Shep and Blake and a bunch of guys are coming over tonight, and I'm gonna save my appetite. That's when I get myself in trouble, because I make like Monday night, I made, simply put, too much food. Way too much food. It was like I cooked for like 20 people coming over. There were 5 people there. Like that's where I get myself in trouble.
That's where Blake and I wish this was in the studio so you could bring that in. And Blake, let me know if you got that invitation. July 4th. It's also a really good decision for the Hockey Hall of Fame to implement Pavel Datsyuk in the 7-member class. Were you surprised that he went in on the first ballot like he did? And
Nope.
why do you think he deserves to be there?
I know that everybody, they're going to sit back and talk about, the Datsyukian goals and everything, because that sells. I get it. Sexy sells. And more on that in a second with the Red Wings. Sexy sells. Sure. No problem. Okay. Shep, he was such a good two-way player. He was just a tremendous all-around player. Close to a complete hockey player, that type of thing. Mad respect for the guy. Mad respect for the guy. I really do. And I think sometimes that's what's forgotten. And honestly, in my opinion, and I don't know if you feel this way, I think playing with Hank Zetterberg helped him, because Hank Zetterberg was absolutely positively a complete player.
Yeah.
And he was. I think Pavel Datsyuk became a better player playing with Hank Zetterberg. I really do.
I don't disagree with that at all. 3-time Selke Award winner, best, two-way forward, 4-time Lady Byng Award winner, right? Hard to believe that he was a 6th-round draft pick. Hard to believe that Henrik Zetterberg was a 7th-round draft pick. Hard to believe that Nick Lidstrom was a 3rd-round draft pick. It's amazing that they were able to put together such incredible skilled players. He was part of that 2002 team, Sean. That makes 10 players from that team alone who are in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Incredible. There should be an 11th. Chris Osgood deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I believe. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
I do. Staunchly.
Is there a better team than the 2002 team? Better team than that in your lifetime?
I know you're going to accuse me of being a homer. I think if you look at some of those Habs teams in the late 70s, you could make an argument. But to your point, are you putting me on the spot? It's the 2002 Red Wings.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not being a homer. I mean, that's being a hockey. That's the reason I ask you that. It's because I think you can be objective with that. That's hard to do, I think, in our business when you're so close to it. But with your knowledge of hockey, and I'm not saying they're the greatest of all time, so don't take it out of context. I said our lifetime.
Yeah.
When you throw out those names, and we don't have to go through all of them, but they're unbelievable. And you throw out those names, it's really hard to argue, especially when they did win it all and who they played for. So
a couple comments. Always like to get to your guys' comments. Appreciate you watching as always. Nick went back to the baseball. I hit up San Diego, Anaheim, Dodger Stadium last time I was in Orange County. Like Dodger Stadium the best. Got to go on the field for fireworks. Loved Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
Loved it. Shep, loved it. Absolutely loved. It's in my top tier of ballparks that we visited.
I think it's in my top tier of venues. And that
Mhm.
includes hockey, that includes basketball, that includes football. I've been to not everyone, but just about every stadium in the country when it comes to those different sports. Not as many hockey, but I would say it's among the best I've ever been in because it just reeks of baseball.
Yep.
Sean and I have talked about this before. So, Nick, you probably have heard this. When you go to a baseball park, I think more than any other sport, you want it to feel like baseball.
Mhm.
There's not many around like that.
No.
And Dodger Stadium is definitely one of them. I think it's because of the setting and everything, it's probably the best. Boston is in there, that discussion. I'm not huge on Wrigley Field. I like Wrigleyville, around Wrigley Field, but I can't say that I think Wrigley Field's in that discussion. And, I've said this before. I love Pittsburgh and Kansas City. So those are all make me feel like I'm at a ballpark.
Everybody gets mad at me. I've said Wrigley is fine. I mean, people have created Wrigley to be something that it just isn't. And Shep, I always make the joke. I half expected women in bikini to deliver giant beers to me in my seats, the way that, heavenly hosts singing and everything. It's a nice ballpark. It's a good experience. But I think people have turned it into, at least in my mind, something that it isn't. Blake said people forget that Sean hated Datsuk. That's a great old bit. We have our old producer, Marty Martin, to thank for that. Boy, that's a great. Do you remember the old drop, Pavel?
Because she loved him. Like
Yeah.
she was, that was her favorite player, favorite athlete, maybe favorite human being of all time.
We had a discussion, Shep. This is going back probably 20 years ago. We had a discussion one day on the show where I loved Hank. I was a huge Hank guy. And it was funny. Like Marty thought like I was attacking Pavel Datsuk. And I was like, Marty, it's not like I'm saying Pavel Datsuk's no good. So of course, Marty, being the wonderful human being that she is, she edited that and turned it into Pavel Datsuk's not good.
Yeah.
Played that drop incessantly. So yeah, I took some heat for that. I got no problem with that.
That is so true. I think Henrik Zetterberg eventually will get there too.
No doubt in my mind.
I think he was, like you said, I think it was a great example. He's a complete player. Yeah.
Yep. Pavel helped Hank out as much as Hank helped Pavel out. They were both special. Absolutely. No doubt about it. Yeah. That wasn't, I hope you're not taking that as a shot against Pavel. Absolutely. They were fantastic. Blake said now all the scouts are in Dallas picking late rounders that work out down there. You know what the crazy thing is? Like, whether people want to admit it or not, the Detroit Red Wings, this franchise kind of changed the way the league is scouted. They really did. There's no other way to say that. I mean, now you have scouts all over Europe. And I'm not just talking like a guy that has European scout in front of his name. Shep, you know this. There's the Finnish scout. There's the German scout. There's the Swiss scout. There's the French scout. I mean, it is incredible. I mean, so the likelihood of finding those late round gems now, like you did 25 years ago, is next to none, because these guys are getting scouted. And trust me when I say this, whether it be working in junior or even at the high school level, the scouts will tell you and GMs will tell you, if you can play, we'll find you.
Absolutely.
That's the difference now. Guys aren't falling between the cracks, Shep. They know who you are if you can play.
I remember talking to a scout at Yost Arena before I was doing a game for BTN or Fox. I forget what it was. And I asked them how it's changed. And they specifically were talking about college hockey too. In the past, college hockey was it wasn't taken quite as seriously.
Sure.
Because this is decades ago. Because there just weren't that many guys. Most were going to juniors. Most were playing in Canada. And now you're seeing an influx of collegians into the pro game, into the National Hockey League, like we've never seen before. So it's really expanded your scouting department in that sense too. They are really pushed pretty thinly. And different general managers expect things differently too. Like Steve Yzerman and Ken Holland do not manage the same. Steve Yzerman expects his scouts to be attending all those games all the way through the Stanley Cup Finals. Ken Holland didn't necessarily believe in that with a lot of his scouts. So it is a different mindset. But yeah, I think the Red Wings changed everything especially when a guy like Sergei Fedorov comes over, Vladimir Konstantinov. I think he was an 11th round draft pick, for crying out loud. When those guys come over and they make the impact, people probably turn around going, wait a minute, what's going on here? I don't know if it's too dissimilar to what Billy Beane in Oakland did. They did it in a different way because of the cost. Detroit did it in a different way, for a positive way, I think, in that they wanted the best players.
As Jerry just said, I'll presume the rest of the NHL is caught up with the scouting overseas, so the late round gems don't exist anymore. You're absolutely right. You're not getting a player of that caliber. Now, that doesn't mean that a guy can still not develop. I mean, you are talking about 18-year-old kids that are getting drafted, and
Right.
18-year-old kids, there's still a trajectory there. But in terms of, becoming a flat out Hall of Fame stud, I mean, like the names that Shep mentioned, Nick Lidstrom, arguably the greatest defenseman of all time, right? I mean,
Right.
I can say the best that I've ever seen, and I only judge it on guys that I've seen. I didn't see Doug Harvey. I didn't see Bobby Orr. So I can just tell you, guys that I've seen, it's Nick Lidstrom and then everybody else.
Yeah. When other players are saying it too, I mean, that's kind of gets, like, we can all have opinions, and I respect everybody's opinion based on, their knowledge and how often they watch a player. But when you talk to other pros and you talk to other Hall of Famers or guys who do what that guy did, and they tell you never seen anybody like him, that kind of reinforces my belief.
Yep. I agree with you. Nick, Pittsburgh, absolutely. Wrigley, Soldier Field were disappointing me. I think Shep, you and I have talked about this. In my son and I, top echelon Pittsburgh's on there. I loved Citi Field, the Mets.
Oh, did you?
Loved it.
Okay.
I thought it was a good mix between it had kind of a minor league feel, especially out in the right field area. We loved it. It just I don't know what it was about that place, but we loved it. But Pittsburgh is at or near the top of everybody's list. It's they just did it right. They did it. They did it. They did it right.
San Francisco too. Remember that. I want you and
I haven't been there.
I want you and the family to go there, especially you and Jack. San Francisco, you'd love. Just dress a little warmer. That's all.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
A couple comments that I want to get to, in particular about Steve Yzerman's moves yesterday, because just my opinion, I think people are hoping for something that isn't going to happen, and that's not a bad thing, okay? And I want you to think that I'm going all negative on you. But first, I want to tell you about our friends at Wealth Advantage Group. Of course, the Handsome Brothers, located in historic downtown Northville. Owned by those two guys, that's Mike Husak and Jeff Husak, with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, they can help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 states. The investment world is a complex one, but if you're ready to start taking your finances a little more seriously, it's time to work with an expert. Reach out to my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574 or visit their website at www.thewealthadv.com. That's www.thewealthadv.com. I know, and Liam asked this, Shep, what do you guys think about Stevie Y's moves that he made yesterday? I know that everybody is hoping for a big splash. I get it. Let me start here. July 1 is completely different than when it was a national holiday. We all know that now. It's great for the players union because you know what happens? They get a lot of rank and file players, ham and eggers, so to speak. And I don't say that disrespectfully, that hit the market and all of a sudden there's a bidding war on guys like that. That's a great thing. That's great for those players. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of going out and shopping and getting the big names don't hit July 1 anymore. Seriously, they just don't, okay? So I know with the moves that Steve made yesterday, a lot of people are thinking, well, he's trying to clear some space. And it's true. He is trying to clear some space.
Would you say financial space or roster space or both? Because Jake Wallman in a second round pick going to San Jose opens the door for some of the young defensemen who will compete for one of those positions.
Yep.
I think it has more to do with that than it does financial.
I think Shep, what he's trying to do, honestly, is what the thing that people forget is you have some contracts coming up. You do. You know what are you going to do with Joe? What are you going to do with Jonathan? Obviously, we know the two big names. We know Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider. They got to load those up. So when people talk about cap space, it's great that you can follow this stuff online. It's fantastic. But when people talk about cap space, I had a guy tell me last week, "Oh, this is great. Look at all the cap space that the Red Wings had." And I said, "Timeout, Slugger. Timeout just a second." A lot of that money is going to be used to let's lock this guy up. Let's lock that guy up.
It's already been spent.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Just because it's not on the books doesn't mean it hasn't been spent. It's already fixated in one specific deal.
Yep. That's that would be so to me, Shep. That's what I'm looking at right now. Is okay. Now what? Well, allegedly they're still talking to Ghost as well. This is remaking a bad defense core. At times struggling defense core, especially I think the back end of this defense core. And I think a lot of people are sitting, and you see these things come up on Twitter and everything, the different memes, Steve's eyes glowing red and, oh, what Steve got cooked up. I think you're going to be disappointed if you're thinking for something big and new and shiny. And Shep, I get it. Sexy sells, but sometimes just being smart and saying, we have to fix our back end. Let's lock these guys up. Let's do a better job of getting the 4, 5, 6. The less sexy moves improves the team. I just don't think there's anything special on the horizon. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time, but I think this is more smart.
Here's what we have to ask ourselves, and we have to answer to fans. Who's the 4, 5, and 6 now? Because one of them is Jeff Petrie. And he's under contract.
Yep.
One of them is Olimata, and he's under contract. Okay. Right. So how are you going to fix that?
You got it. Yep.
So what you're doing, I don't disagree with you, but I think he's trying to improve the top.
You think so?
Well, Edvinson's coming in, right? Edvinson's going to make the team next year. He's got to be a top 2 pair defenseman.
For sure.
Wallman was playing with Sider at one point, and that's what Jim wrote in too. I was believing that Wallman was a D1 line with Sider. He was. That doesn't mean he's a D1, but he did play a D1 in Detroit. You got to find a partner for him. I think they've got to be stronger in their top 4. And I don't disagree with you. The back end's got to be better too, but I think you can only take it one step at a time. I think their top 4 have to be better. And they're counting on Edvinsson to be part of it.
And that's the point that I'm making, Shepard. I don't expect anything sexy. And right. Furthermore, we all have to get out of the move. Like Jerry said, we're too nostalgic for the days of let's just go out and get Chelios or Wendell Clark, et cetera, et cetera. July 1 doesn't work that way anymore. Smart teams are locking up their guys long before July 1 happens. I mean, that's just the way. The Stamkos argument. Listen, my jaw will drop if he isn't back in Tampa. Honestly, my jaw will flip and drop. And it's just, it doesn't work that way anymore. Right? Who's going to get Suter and Parise and, no, those days are over. It's a different type of situation now. So
I agree with you, but here's the problem for Detroit fans. Let's just look at it from a fan perspective. You know what you need, but you can't go get it, and you don't have it in your system, so it means you can't develop it. So what do? It's the same thing with the Tigers. They need a shortstop. They don't have one in their system. They can't go out and get one, and they're not developing one, and you're stuck. And it's not just shortstop either. You get a bunch of second basemen. You're trying to find out different places for them. I don't want to get into the Tigers. That's the same thing with the Red Wings, though.
Neither do I.
So the Red Wings situation is, I mean, you need a goalie. Can you be patient enough to wait for one of the 2 that you think are going to be in your system and be good enough? That's going to take a little bit of time. You need at least a scorer, right? You need a center. You need a number 1 center. You're not going to get one because there's not one available. Because as much as we like Steven Stamkos, he's not a number 1 center anymore, is he?
No.
Okay. So who are you getting to get? And you need at least someone to pair with Sider or a second defensive line. that's pretty good. Are you going to get that? At least you can develop one there. So that's why I think fans are hoping for a big splash. And I know you're kind of raining on their parade, but it's true. It's just not happening. You're going to have to do it with the guys that you develop, period.
It is interesting because I'm not sure on my math. My math might be a little fuzzy, but for all the 30, 31, 32 million dollars that people are already being so kind and going out and spending for Steve, I think the one thing that they're forgetting is, okay, a big chunk of that's going to go to Mo. Big chunk of that's going to go to Lucas Raymond. Then you have, like I said, whether it be Jonathan, whether it be Valeno, you got to do that. And then all of a sudden you're sitting there going, wait a second, I thought I was like at $30 million and I'm sitting there around $10 million right now. Well, that's not a hell of a lot of cap space when you're still considering, oh, by the way, there are some roster spots that I have to fill. To me, the most important thing is looking at a team. And the only way to truly see it is to see it like in action, but maybe looking at a depth chart come mid-July and going, do I like this group of defensemen better than I did it a year ago?
Right.
And if the answer is yes, then Steve Yzerman did his job. But it's interesting because I think Jerry hit the nail on top of the head. We were so spoiled for so long. Shep, how many times those trade deadline shows? Well, this guy wants to go to Detroit, and that guy wants to go to Detroit, and that guy wants to Detroit. He wants his shot at the cup. Those days are over. They're not just for Detroit. I'm not just talking about Detroit being, a less than franchise for the last, however many years. Just the way it's configured now, those days are over. You're seeing more and more guys get those locked in contracts, get those long-term contracts, and that's smart business. So it's also took away from some of the oomph on trade deadline day as well.
Yeah, but I think it's also the reason so many people want Patrick Kane back too, because he picked your team. So people think, oh my God, see, we are relevant. People do want to come here. So if he picked us once, he's got to pick us again, right?
Yep.
And so people think, yeah, let's keep him. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I sure wouldn't break the bank for him. I can tell you that.
Jim said, what do you think is the combined blood alcohol content of the entire Kachuk family?
I don't know, but I'd take any of them.
Oh, my goodness. I'd still take Walt. Are you kidding me?
Oh, man.
Jeez, oh, Pete.
Yeah, I was really happy for him. I think his brother, Brady's a hell of a player, too. I'm not saying he's a number one guy, but I love the way he plays.
Yep.
And I don't know who you compare him to, but I love his intensity and his gas level, his give a shit level. I think it's awesome. I think it'd be contagious. And I think it's a big reason, not that he's their best player, but he's one of them. It's a big reason they won. So yeah. I would love that. I would love a guy like that on my team.
I want to get back to what Matt said in a second after I tell you about legacy. Mark said, joined late, so sorry if I missed it, but I don't mind losing Wallman as much because it opens up the roster for Edvinsson and others. I don't like adding the second. His contract is pretty accurate. So why is that the sweetener? Because you're helping a team out. I mean, really? I mean, okay, we're helping you out. What are you going to do for us? You got to throw something in there. That's just
you're going to get. We don't know what the future considerations are yet. So if one of those future considerations is a second, you can understand it a little bit better. It would be. I think it would be easier for people to swallow if they knew what those future considerations were. That's all.
Let me tell you about our friends at Legacy. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents. They provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. They've helped my family out. They've helped some of yours out. They're going to help you out as well. How do they do it? By fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. And yeah, it's all about saving money. That's what they did for us. That's what they'll do for you. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Get your quote. They're going to help you out just like they helped me and thousands of people out. Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, your business insurance needs. They got your back. Call them today, 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Here's a great question, Shep.
Okay, go ahead.
Matt asked the question, and I get it. I totally get it. Matt said, at what point in time do we consider Yzerman a failure? I have been consistent with this, and Matt, I know you've listened to me on the radio, so you've probably heard me say this 100 times. I have been consistent with this from the day he was hired, April 19th, 2019. Sorry if you've heard this 31 times, I'm going to make it 32. The clock doesn't even start on Steve Yzerman until this past season ended. There's a reason the term 5-year plan exists, okay? He was taking over a disaster. He really was. And I'm not throwing Ken Holland under the bus when I say that, because I'm of the personal belief that some of the moves were made to continue the cute little streak. And look at us, we keep making the playoffs and things like that. This franchise was a mess. Now, the one reality in hockey, here we are talking about the new realities. The one reality in hockey that you cannot deny is the salary cap is going to get everybody. Eventually, it's going to catch you. It might take longer for some teams, but the salary cap is going to catch you. And I know what people are saying, Shep. They're probably going to say, I can't believe you're giving Steve Yzerman a pass and all that stuff. Fine. But at least I'm being consistent. Mm-hmm. This was a 5-year plan, okay? The clock starts now, all right? He's on the clock, not just for the draft, but I think metaphorically speaking for this season. If a year from now, the Red Wings are in this same position, in that 10-9, just on the outside looking into the playoffs, I think it's fair to ask some questions at that point in time. Okay, really? Now we're 6 years after you've been hired, and we're still hovering at that, golly gee, we came a close part. But right now, the amount of work that had to be done just to get them to this point, the clock starts now.
Yeah, I understand you have been consistent. I think you also have to throw in the COVID year. So, I mean, that does give him a little leniency. I think that's important. I believe the clock started at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
I think with some of the moves that he made, and the reason I say that is because of the strong moves he made to make this team into a playoff contender, not a title contender, but a playoff contender. Were those moves successful? Look, they were better, right? They were better. He has not addressed what this team has needed most, and that's a goalie situation. He's tried. He has not been successful in that regard. He's used a first-round pick on it, Sebastian Cossa, who is starting to play a little bit better. And I know goalie's a lot like quarterback. It's going to take you some time. But I really felt like, and I'm included in this, a lot of people felt like he could be trusted when trying to fix that situation. And he hasn't. He's failed in that regard. Does that mean he's failed as a general manager? Absolutely not. But for that one specific need, something that keeps you in games on a regular basis, I think he has failed in trying to get a goalie.
There's no argument there. I think what worked for him in Tampa, if you remember, he grabbed 337-year-old Dwayne Rolison, right? And they made that crazy run in Tampa with Rolison, okay? And then it was on to the next guy. And then there was the Ben Bishop run, who literally was holding the water, waiting for Vasilevsky to get ready. And I think Ben Bishop turned out better than anybody could have imagined, right? I think it was perfect spot. Everything kind of came together there. That's what he's doing right now until the guy takes over. And he's got two guys that could play that part, whether it be Sebastian or Trey. I still think, I really do. I think that Trey might be here right now, but at the same time, also a year behind Sebastian in development, because he's got one more year at Michigan State. There's no doubt about that. And then we'll see what happens from there. But I think, Shep, he's hoping for that, whether it be Alex Lyon, he's hoping to catch that lightning in the bottle until the guy is ready. And they haven't been able to do it.
Agreed. So a couple of things before, because I know we're not staying too long on this. Do you think Datsuk's number should be retired?
Yes.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. I really wish they'd put number 91 up there too.
100%.
He deserves it 100%. The other thing I would tell you is I thought what you and I love most about hockey is the people associated with the sport. They are real for the most part. I'm painting a broad brush here. And I'm not trying to denigrate any other sport because we know good people in all the sports. All right. I mean, Jim Caldwell, Dwayne Casey, two of the best people I've ever met. Just wonderful human beings, not just coaches, but wonderful human beings. The post celebration of Florida winning their championship brought tears to my eyes in so many different interviews. When Paul Maurice said, "This is for my father," and he looked at the camera, he said, "Dad, your name's going to be on the Stanley Cup with your idols, Richard, Bellevue, Howe, Lindsay, now Maurice." I broke down. I'm like, man, what perspective, right? For him to say, "I didn't win the cup, you share the cup."
Awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
What's the first thing Matthew Tkachuk said? Yes, I watch CBC just like you do, or Sportsnet on CBC. ESPN had him mic'd up. So I watched some post game of both. I thought SN did a great job of getting players and doing interviews. But Matthew Tkachuk was mic'd up. He goes and finds his mom. And what's he say to her? He said, "Thanks for getting me here."
Mm-hmm.
All those guys, Kyle Okposo, what a wonderful interview. Oh, I played 1-on-2 with my kids yesterday and I really wasn't feeling it. And then suddenly, I was really into it. Suddenly the adrenaline gets going and stuff. And I told my guys just to relax and have fun. And, it's like we're kids again. All these guys, the first things they're talking about, except for Eric Ekblad, who drew the F-bomb, which was pretty funny. But what do they all say? They all talk about their teammates and they talk about their parents and who it's for. And Matthew Tkachuk saying, "Mom, thanks for getting me here." And when he does the interview, he says, "My brother's going to be here soon because he's a great player." Those are the things they're thinking about. They're not thinking about themselves. They're not looking for a look at me moment in front of a camera. I thought it was incredibly refreshing, and it bothers me that not enough people, especially at the four-letter network, didn't note that and talk about it. And that's where hockey fails. All right. We may love the sport and we may love the people who deal with it, right? And play it. But hockey's terrible at marketing people. Awful. They don't market their stars. And what they should do is they should take clips of all that celebration and watch Connor McDavid be the last guy off the ice for Edmonton, thanking every one of his teammates, hugging Corey Perry, and not coming out and getting, the Conn Smythe as unselfish sport. You could market that right now and you don't do a thing about it. Shame on the NHL.
Couldn't agree more. Well stated. By the way, I also love Corey Perry. I know I'll take Corey Perry on my team any day of the year. I have no problem saying that. Even at his advanced age of 72 or whatever he is right now. What a bad run for him, though. My goodness gracious. I think the biggest indignity of all of it, forget about losing into the finals, he lost to the Leafs in the playoffs. Who loses to the Leafs in the playoffs? Like in the middle
There's the dig. Everyone was waiting for the dig. You got it.
In the middle of losing all these Stanley Cup final, right smack dab in the middle is you lost to the Leaf in the playoff. Ugh. Nobody loses to the Leafs in the playoff. Are you kidding me?
This is an interesting one. Mark says, "I still believe in him," referring to Yzerman.
Yeah.
Because of his track record. And a lot better than I feel about Scott Harris, who gives me Bob Quinn, smartest guy in the room vibes. Ooh.
Shep, I got snowed by Bob Quinn. I did. Openly admit it. I'm in conversations with him. What he said made so much sense. He just couldn't do it.
When did he lose you? When did he lose you?
I think the second year of Patricia, where it didn't take a rocket scientist, Shep, to figure out that it wasn't working on the field, most importantly, working in the locker room. You were down there. Mm-hmm. I remember walking out with Lomas. And I think it was the first week of November. Okay. And it was like we left a funeral. I mean, it was going through, it gave me Millen era vibes. It was, sent the chill down your spine and everything. And literally I remember I looked at Lomas and I said, "This isn't working. Like this isn't." The guys were checked out, whether they want to admit it or not. They were checked out. It was like, okay, we got another 2 months of this, right? And then when it happened again the next year, so it was about a year and a half. And then when it happened again the next year, by that time you already knew that, okay.
Do you remember a cornerback out of Florida?
Oh, Tease Tabor.
That was his undoing.
Yeah.
When Bob Quinn said, I've watched more tape on this guy than anybody I've ever watched, and just swore up and down, and the guy was out of the league within a few years.
Mm-hmm.
That was the defining moment. You're telling everybody you don't know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's when he lost me. I had numerous conversations with him, publicly and privately. I was never really sold. And I sure as hell wasn't sold on the coach. But you're right. When you don't recognize, when you see your coach, and look, general managers in football are usually at least 1 or 2 practices a week, right? You get a vibe, right? You hear things. You should be talking to your players. When you see and hear what those players were saying about him and the disconnect that he had, shame on you for not recognizing it.
It was real. It was, it was real.
No, I'm not going to say Scott Harris is like that, because I think that's a little presumptuous. I think there are certain defining moments in general managers' careers, and we forget about the good things. Like Joe Dumars did a wonderful job, right? Don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
But people remember him for certain things: Darko Milicic, Allen Iverson trade, right? Getting rid of Chauncey Billups, all those things.
Charlie Villanueva and Ben Gordon was it?
Ben Gordon,
that was
excellent. I remember having a debate with Ryan Field at the time. He's like, "Yeah, we got the 2 best free agents." I said, "You wasted money."
Yep.
We got the 2 best. I said, just because they're the 2 best doesn't mean it was a good fit, and it doesn't mean that they were good players. Okay, you threw too much money at these guys. Anyway, when you look at Scott Harris right now, so far, Tiger fans have basically come to a determination on him for not trading Eduardo Rodriguez last year. Mm-hmm. They feel like that's a massive failure. Forget Max Clark over Wyatt Langford for a moment. The bottom line is they feel like you should have traded Rodriguez, and you should have known, more importantly, you should have known where he would go and where he wouldn't go, and how you got screwed, and how you talked about it or tried to deal with it too late. And then, of course, you lost him. Not like it's been a big loss, because it hasn't been. But I think that's what Tiger fans feel. Yeah.
And let's not have history repeat itself when they go through this dance with Jack Flaherty, right? I mean, make sure, okay, this is a guy who's up, and certainly, if I'm a contending team right now, Baltimore Orioles, how would you like to add Jack Flaherty to your
the Dodgers? Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. It's not just that, and this isn't Scott Harris's fault, but because Tiger fans have been burned by this situation, Michael Fulmer, okay?
Yeah.
Matthew Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the trade was made, Justin Verlander. Those are all things that Tiger fans reflect on and say, sure, it's part of our history, even though it's not Scott Harris's history. You're in charge of reversing that type of negative history, and you didn't do it when you had the chance.
Yep, no doubt. Hey, want to tell you about our friends at All About Catering. You're having a big event this summer. You don't want to do the cooking. These guys will do the cooking for you. Rick and his gang are fantastic. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer. Graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for, from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering will take care of you. They took care of us. Done a couple parties for us. Customer service and satisfaction, their number one goal. Don't sweat your next big event. Give Rick and the gang at allaboutcateringllc.com the chance to hook you up. Go look at their menus, see all their 5-star reviews. Once again, that's allaboutcateringllc.com, or just give them a call at 586-731-1398. That's 586-731-1398 to get your event started.
Sean, it's the best time to do it, man. I mean, you've got graduation parties everywhere.
Yep.
So if everybody's looking for this stuff, that is the place to go.
Are you still in that era, where you get to, when the last couple of
neighbors?
Yeah, it's been unbelievable.
Yeah. It's it can be very fun, but on the other hand, it can be very financially discouraging.
Well, that's why we have to get Money Tree to advertise with us. I'm Sean Baligian here from Money Tree. I went to 4 graduation parties on Saturday, and I really wasn't worried about it because I went to Money Tree and I planted my $50 tree. As a matter of fact, I told my daughter yesterday, just go out back, pick as many $50 as you want. Thanks to our friends at Money Tree. Jeez, oh, Pete, it's like seriously, Shep. Last week I had to do this high school football all-star game, right? And we got done, and I went to my oldest friend's his son's graduation party, and then it was okay. Now I have to bounce to this one. Now I have to bounce to that one. Ended up at 4 different graduation parties.
That's expensive. You just blew your check.
Plasma. I gave plasma. I cut off a couple toes. Jeez, oh, Pete.
You had to cook your way through it in order to be justifiably there. I'll cook the brisket for you if you let me. If you want me at your party, there's your cost.
All right. Anything else you want to hit on, pal?
No, I thought that was good stuff, man.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it very much.
I enjoyed it. Thank you guys as always. Really appreciate it. Shep, we'll try to catch up next week because, like I said, I'm heading off to Cali.
Yeah, I'm excited for you.
You, buddy. You guys have a wonderful 4th together. I hope you guys all get a chance to break the whole clan together and have a wonderful 4th, man.
Hey, take pictures when you're out there, brother. So I want to hear what you have to say. I'd love to hear Jack's thoughts on the ballpark too. Here's
a picture of the big bowl of nachos I ate. Here's a picture of the 5 hot dogs I put down. All right, we'll see you guys. Blake, thanks. Right. Thanks you guys.
Thanks, Blake.
Right, we'll see you.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matcherzak. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.